Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Google News Lab training on YouTube Live. Today is December 7th, 2020, and we're streaming from the Bay Area today. So my name is Michael Grant, a teaching fellow at the Google News Lab, and today's topic is going to be machine learning. Um, there's so much to machine learning, and I think we've consolidated that all into a really useful and impactful course. So stay tuned, and we'll get started. Before we get started, though, I'd love to share a few words about the Google News Initiative. So this is our effort to build a stronger future for journalism. And we do this through what we call the 3 E's. And the first one is elevate and strengthen quality journalism. That's where I come in as a teaching fellow. So again, I'm a teaching fellow for the Americas, and I do this in tandem with Maggie Farley, who's also a teaching fellow. And earlier this year, we were traveling around the country to newsrooms to do these trainings, but we've since pivoted to things like YouTube Live, and you're more than welcome to contact us directly and schedule a training, and we can jump on a Google Hangouts meet and do that for your newsroom. But we're also doing this through evolving business models to drive sustainable growth, as well as empowering news organizations through technological innovation. And I'm sure you will agree that today's lesson is definitely along the lines of empowerment through technological innovation. One thing you can do in your spare time to check out trainings like this and more is to go to g.co/news training. You'll find this is a pretty great resource. There's tons of tutorials and trainings there. Not only do we have things like AI and machine learning, but we also have things like investigative reporting, environmental journalism, and so much more. So I highly recommend that you, in your free time, go and check out this site. It also has training courses, like you go through modules and then get a little certificate at the end. So why don't you check that out, g.co/news training. All right, so today's topic is machine learning, and you might already be familiar with a module that we have on the training website. So hopefully, if you've not already checked that out, you can go take a look at it. But machine learning is basically the process of training a machine how to recognize information. And so we journalists can use these kinds of techniques in order to extend the depth of our own reporting. And so what I want to do is kind of lay out how you might go about doing this on your own. But before we get to like a deep dive on machine learning, one thing that we can do is have a little bit of fun. And we're going to visit g.co/quickdraw. And quickdraw is an AI experiment, but it's like a Pictionary version of online using machine learning. So why don't we go ahead and check that out? Great. Okay, so I am here now at the quickdraw website, and it's basically using a neural network to learn and recognize doodling. So what I'm going to do is click this Let's Draw button. And now it says draw a truck, and I've got under 20 seconds to do it. Okay, so check it out. A truck. All right.
I see square, or drill, or diving board, or knee. I see music note, or Venn.
All right, almost done.
I'm stumped. I see ambulance. Oh, I know, it's truck.
Hey, I got it. Awesome. So I'm drawing on my my little pad here. Let's see if I can get this one. All right, a dog.
I see ear, or squiggle, or cloud, or peanut, or butterfly. I see teddy bear, or bear. Oh, I know, it's dog.
Hey, I got 2 right. All right, let's see if I can quickly draw a windmill. All right, go.
I see circle. I see golf club. Oh, I know, it's windmill.
Wow, that was fast. I didn't even get through it. I thought it looked like a flower. All right, so I'm gonna draw a nail. I wonder what kind of nail it is. I'm gonna go with the one that you use on like a construction site. All right, let's try it. Go. All
I
right.
see bench, or line, or belt, or keyboard. Oh, I know, it's nail.
Hey, wow, I'm doing pretty good. All right, let's see if I can draw a vial of toothpaste. This might be hard, but let's see. All right.
I see bench. I see pillow, or keyboard, or eraser. Oh, I know, it's toothpaste.
Awesome. I didn't think I'd be so good at this, but let me try this last one. All right, river. All right, let's go.
I see mountain. I see camel, or toe, or roller coaster. I see mouse, or computer mouse.
Uh-oh.
I see flamingo. I see lightning, or raccoon, or saxophone, or swan. I
Didn't
see
work out
rabbit,
so
or
well.
snake, or squirrel. Sorry, I couldn't guess it.
Well, so it says our neural network figured out 5 of our doodles, but it saw something else in the other one. Select one to see what it saw and visit the data to see 50 million drawings made by other real people on the internet. All right, so let's see what other people on the internet drew. So you drew this, and the neural network didn't recognize it. It thought your drawing looked more like these: a camel, or a mouse, or a flamingo. And we heard the AI say those things. But here's what other people drew. And it says, what does it think a river looks like? It learned by looking at these examples drawn by other people. All right, so, oh, this is what I was trying to do right here, that one. But I think I accidentally tapped a button and messed up my illustration. Anyway, so I hope that illustrates to you how it works in theory. So essentially, we're throwing images at this thing, and it's able to recognize similarities in those images. And we can continue to train our model to do a better job at recognizing those similarities. Oh, all right, moving on. So, an ML that creates ML for your problem, right? So, this is kind of what it looks like behind the scenes to use an application like this. So, we were drawing sketches, and those sketches were being served to Cloud Auto ML, which is a Google product. And Quick Draw is being trained to recognize those images, and it can, store those images and draw upon the information from those images. And then it serves up a guess to us. So that's kind of the overall concept of how this works. And you can see that it may be a little imperfect, but the idea is to continue to annotate those images and make sure that the machine is learning the way that you want it to learn. So QuickDraw used machine learning to try to guess what we were drawing, but our friends at texty.org trained a model to recognize um, uh, what are these mines, amber mines. And so on this web page is really awesome. What it allows you to do is to click the image here, and then you can see where they were able to train a model to recognize um, uh, you know satellite imagery. So clicking through that image, you can see where they've circled the box, or kind of put a square around it to call it out, and they've annotated that this is a region that they were able to recognize using machine learning, that this is a mine. All right, so you can visit this project by Texty, and it's a really awesome. You can look through, a number of different illegal amber mining sites and see where they were able to identify them. Okay, so again, we already have done a module in our training center of the Google News Lab website. And this is the introduction to machine learning. And so we want to go ahead and start to move the ball forward. We've already kind of put together what we think is a really great set of resources that will help you understand more about machine learning. But today's lesson, we're going to take it a step further. And, really grasping the concepts is helpful in this case. And so one very useful resource that you can check out is A to Z of AI .withgoogle.com. And this will help you make sense of artificial intelligence. And so there's these really great illustrations. It's beautiful, it's typographic, but it breaks down concepts in machine learning and AI. And by going through this resource, it might be a good, refresher of some concepts in machine learning. So you can check that out. One of my favorite ones is the one on bias, where it shows a little bit more information about, how bias works. I'll go ahead and click over so you can see it as well. So making sense of artificial intelligence. The A to Z guide offers a series of simple, bite-sized explainers to help anyone understand what AI is and how it works and how it's changing the world around us. So it's like a really beautiful dictionary, a visual dictionary. But here's the bias one. And I'm just going to click through so you can see how awesome this is. So bias, incomplete data can lead to bias in AI, right? And so it talks about, how this can happen. And quite, simply, you can see how AI might not be able to recognize other shoes if you're not giving it other shoes to recognize. And so that's how, what the machine learns could be biased because, we haven't given it any other information. All right, so just a really handy dandy resource here for you to go through different terms and really understand the concepts that are there. All right. So taking it a step further, though, we're going to kind of lay out what it means to get hands-on with machine learning. All right. And so this new course that's available on g.co/news training is a really practical guide to getting familiar with concepts in machine learning. And so in this course, it'll be a step-by-step guide through, lessons on building models, tagging images, training your model, and then testing it to see if it actually learned what you hope for it to learn. All right, and so this is what it looks like to get started. You can go to Google Cloud Platform, and this is a place where you can build, web apps and other web-related technologies. But here you'll be able to build your model for using Cloud Vision, and it's the Cloud Vision API. All right, and this tool is basically how you're going to build that model. All right. So the same way that the organization was able to build a model to recognize amber mines, well, we can create our own model to recognize other kinds of images. But in this case, we're going to actually go through, or the course on the News Lab site goes through how you can do the amber mine training. So you can click through and get access to a free trial. And the only thing that you will have to do is insert your credit card. However, you will not be billed, but you do get up to $300 in free cloud credits to get started on your own project. Just be sure to remove your card information once you're done with your project. All right, just a quick tip. So when you're getting started with building a machine learning model, you're really going to do two things here. You're going to upload a set of images, and those images are going to already be tagged with some information. All right, and so the TextLead team has provided uh, a link to two sets of files that you can upload into your model. And the text files are basically things that are accurate depictions of amber mines, and then ones that are um, not amber mines. And so we're training it to recognize the good information and information that doesn't apply to being a landmine. All right. And so once you upload that imagery, you're going to click train, and that's when your model begins to develop, its intelligence around what it's seeing in the information from each visual. All right. And so it takes around 8 hours of computation to train a model. But what's really awesome and powerful about this Google Cloud platform is that you have a number of servers working to put power behind how quickly it can recognize those things. So it may shave what might have been 8 hours of work down to a limited set of hours. All right. So very, very cool to try that out. And this is the first step. And this is what it looks like, right? Here's our positive images. These are the ones that that we know are good information for an amber mine. All right, so once we've built our model, you'll get the results on accuracy, and then we can tweak the tolerance. So we can really say like, um, you know, uh, this is a lot closer to like what a real amber mine looks like. And then so if there's things that are, maybe a little, hard to tell, it's going to use as much of the information from our really good depiction and try to figure out if it is exactly what we think it is. All right. So once you're happy with the tolerance levels of your machine model, then you'll go ahead and deploy that model. All right, so now it says our model is deployed and it's available for online prediction requests. So then you'd be able to go and take a look at your model and see how well it is doing in predicting if the images are amber mines. All right, so hopefully that wasn't too bad. Basically, you have an interface here that you'll have to get familiar with, but the more you do this and go through the exercise, the better you'll be able to really understand the parts of what are happening. And so this is a really good course to kind of get your feet wet and actually using real images and uploading them to a model and training that model to recognize what it is that you want it to recognize. All right, cool. And just a note that once you've used your model and you're happy with the result, be sure to like close your project and remove your credit card, and that way you won't have to worry about any costs, for use and consumption. So now that we understand a little bit about how journalists might create a machine learning model, one thing that I want to kind of bring into the conversation is how this kind of technique can expand our reporting capabilities, right? And so one really great example comes from this Reuters and Earthrise media project. And I really found this report to be fascinating because not only is it, concrete reporting on, the rise of concentration camps that are housing Muslims in the region, but they analyzed a really large amount of facilities based on satellite imagery. And so scrolling through this story, you'll see a number of really interesting, analysis of images. So I'll just click over so we can kind of take a quick look at this. So turning the desert into detention camps, right? Um, and so I just want to kind of quickly show you all the things that they put together in their reporting to really make this an impactful journalism, fact-based report. So they've highlighted a facility that they know is a camp. You can see where it's walled off, and you can see where the guard watchtower is. And those are characteristics of the camp that they can train a model to start to understand. And so this is the region where they were doing this analysis. And so this is where it gets really interesting. You can see that, there's details about the largest camp that they can then, uh, you know, um, recognize as data information, right, about the structures. And then finally, I think this is what you're really going to be kind of blown away by, is you can see the how they've been developed here over time, and you can also see the close-ups of objects that can be recognized about a detention camp. All right. So I think this is just a really phenomenal, view of how we can use machine learning to identify things like, objects in a region using satellite imagery, and train a model to recognize what it's seeing in that region. All right. So they did this, in combination with extensive reporting, and that's how we can get so much more of an in-depth look at the weight and the gravity of what might be happening somewhere by introducing technology into our reporting, like machine learning. Awesome. So that concludes our look at machine learning for the day. But again, I'd love to encourage you to visit g.co/news training. Our hands-on with machine learning is an all-new course. We really hope that you find it useful. Please check it out. And if you have any questions along the way, feel free to reach out to our Google News Lab team. And also, we're all about supporting Newsroom. So if you have questions about other Google products, particularly the ones that we share with journalists, feel free to reach out to us at newslabsupport@google.com. And again, Maggie and I are really a resource for journalists. And so we would love for you to, to reach out to us direct. Here's my email address, grantmichael@google.com. Feel free to book a session with us, and we'd love to train your newsroom or your group or your organization. All right. I just want to say thank you so much. I know it's holiday season, and we still have a couple more trainings on the menu. So you can catch us not next week, but the week after, and we'll have another training for you. All right. Thanks. Again, Michael Grant, teaching fellow at the Google News Lab. We really appreciate you. Take care and enjoy this holiday season. Goodbye.